Good morning, everyone. Thanks for attending. My presentation is about the effects of religion on household financial behaviour. Now, normally when we think about household financial behaviour and what might explain household financial behaviour, we probably don't knee-jerk reaction think, oh, religion has something to do with that. And it took some time for me to think about it, but I guess we're thinking about education, employment status, and income, usually are key factors that determine household financial behaviour, but sometimes also our behaviours, how we behave and how we what we believe in also has an effect on our behaviour. So this got me thinking about norms and values and so on, and so I come up with this idea of looking into religion and see how religion has an effect on household financial behaviour. So firstly, what is religion? Religion is uniquely concerned with God, deities and supernatural beings, transcendent forces, and is distinguished by its special function in life rather than by a defined entity in terms of how people come to terms with ultimate issues in life. So why are we here? Is it more than just me? This sort of thing. And the adoption of belief norms and values is where religion affects behaviour. And that's just a little fact there from Pew Research. And given 84% of the world's population, according to Pew, is affiliated with a religion. But anyway, aside from affiliation, the degree to which people reflect religious behaviours coincides with the importance they place on the religion and the time they allocate to engaging with that religion. And so when we talk about whether someone is religious or not, we're usually referring to not just affiliation, but also their observance or their behaviours. So literature covers a broad range of phenomena in terms of religion, and it affects, in the literature talk about economic growth, education, employment, residential location, selection of a spouse, the way we teach children, business and social relationships, social capital, crime, physical and mental health, and so on. So it's quite, there's a lot of research out there talking about what religion affects. In the media we see that religion is a strong influence on social, economic and political issues. In Identity Economics, which is a book written by Akerlof and Cranton in 2010, they discuss the importance of identity and norms associated with the identity to explain their behaviour. These notions of identity and norms explain how we think and how we think others should behave and provide an important source of motivation that can guide our decision making on important issues. In a similar way, religions contain many norms and values designed to provide guidance to its followers on ideal behaviours. That's what they said, not what I said. Okay, so this number of limitations in the research, which is what we try to address with this research paper. One of the big issues is about the way people group religions in their analysis. Weber wrote nearly 100 years ago that that it's important not to group all Protestants, for example, into one category, and said that the ascetic Protestants, while they didn't agree with the pursuit of wealth for the means, for no important means, but they said if you attained it through the fruit of your labour, they thought it was a blessing from God. Whereas Luther said that we should only accumulate as much as we need to survive, and if we, to actually try to go beyond that was reprehensible, and that he said everyone should abide by his living and let the godless run after gain. These are just beliefs, okay? So I'm just saying, well, how does religion affect? And it affects behaviour by the way we believe. Stark and Glock also make the point that we should not use an average for many different denominations. There's also some issues in terms of a lot of the research is individual level. We look at the household level. Just using single measures of religion, we use multiple measures in this analysis. Most of the analysis doesn't account for gender, so they just provide an average of male and female, while they may have males and females in their sample. And then there's some sample data limitations which we deal with by using panel data and a very large data set over multiple waves. So the research question is to investigate the effects of religion using both affiliation and observance measures on household financial behaviour, looking at financial assets, both and non-financial assets, debt and net wealth. So basically looking at how affiliation had effects on those things, how observance, so attendance to religious activities and so on, and to see if behaviour heterogeneity by gender in different household groupings is important. This graph here just shows relative to Catholics, which is the 0.5 line in the middle, the accumulation of wealth by mainline Protestants, which are like Anglicans and so on. The Protestant 2, which is the brown line at the bottom, that's the conservative Protestants, so that's a number of other Seventh-day Adventists and a whole bunch of other Protestants there. And the dotted line is just showing you the unaffiliated. So that's behaviour over a lifetime. And we see there that the mainline Protestants have a higher level of wealth, significantly higher than conservative Protestants. So this is showing you a difference in behaviour. Okay, so we just use a multivariate linear regression model here. I won't go into that too much because of time. Just looking at some results. So if we just look at the highlighted the results there, we use Catholic as a reference group, and we see above Catholics as unaffiliated couples. And these are all couples, unaffiliated couples, and you see that they're all got higher wealth than Catholics, and higher than mainline Protestants and conservative Protestants, and other religions. So of all the all interfaith, so they're both the same religion. So no religion, unaffiliated couples have higher wealth than all of those religions. Within other religions, I've also specified some others there, and you'll see that other religions essentially, if you look at net wealth, have all got much lower. The negatives are showing much less than the reference group, which is Catholics. Okay, so it's just showing that when couples have the same religion, they generally have a lower level of wealth than unaffiliated, and quite a lot less, except for Judas. But I have a very small sample size for Judas, so I won't pay too much attention to those. Now, when we look at interfaith couples, so it's couples with different faiths. So one is, say, a Catholic and one is a Protestant, for example, in the top section there. This is just to test the gender, the heterogeneity in behaviour by gender. So if you look at I've got a male Catholic, female Protestant, female Catholic, male Protestant. We can see there's some differences there, and we're just sort of teasing out to say it's important to account for a gender in that. We also note that with the mixed couples, so that's, thank you, mixed couples, so that's the couples with where one person is religious and another one isn't. And if you look at the Protestant, you'll see that they have male Protestant, female, unaffiliated, actually have the highest net wealth of all couples in our data set. That is, it's not counting Jewish couples, which are higher. The least wealth is with conservative Protestants. So it's just showing you there's a very difference in behaviour across and also the other key point I wanted to mention here is that when they have frequent attendance to religious activities, it affects their behaviour even more so. So if you look across all the different religions, you find that generally there's an attitude against greed, to not accumulate too much wealth. Whether we think about Islam, Hinduism, or Christianity, they tend to think that greed is not a good thing. We shouldn't accumulate too much wealth. Wealth is God's money. We should share it with the poor, and so on like that. So we can see when they attend frequently as opposed to not, you see that if you look at net wealth, all negative, much less than Catholics. But if you just compare with the others, you can see they're much lower when they have high attendance. Okay, so in terms of key findings, we show that religion is important in explaining household financial behaviour based on what I've accounted for. I've also included a number of controls in mine, including age for each in the couple, employment status, education level completed, and a number of other factors, including life satisfaction and so on. So Yes, so I'm saying that interfaith couples have the least wealth. So these are the same religion in the couple. They have the least wealth, and that's just because we would argue that they're driven by their beliefs, which are more away from greed and so on. And we show that, consistent with what Weber found about 100 years ago, that mainline Protestants had higher wealth than conservative Protestants due to their different belief systems in terms of wealth. When we interact attendance with religion, we show that there's a lower asset wealth, lower debt, and lower net wealth for all interfaith couples except Jews. Interfaith couples and mixed couples, except for Protestant mixed couples. And we also show that gender is important in explaining financial behaviour in mixed religious couples and couples with one religion, non-religion couples. All right, so that's the end of my presentation. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.